Hello, I'm Jason, and I'm your Gardner friend. And today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do a real simple garden. If you've got zero skills, it'll just kind of show you a way to just go for it and see what happens. So if you look at the garden itself, it's a fairly small little plot of land. I picked this because I get the best sun in my small apartment. This is the best area that gets sun. And all I basically did was took a shovel and I dug up the grass all the way around the outside of this square. I measured it off to see how much chicken wire. See here, that's just a little short chicken wire fence. And I figured out how many posts I would need. And the reason I fenced it off was because stray dogs or people walking dogs would kind of stay out of it. I extended it with some bamboo and mesh, but that's not even necessary. You could have just kept it at 3 feet. So I took the grass out. Had a garden in here for two types of gardens now, and this will be the third one. Now, the soil that I put in, if you just want to get going, you could just use the soil you have right there and see what happens. I upgraded this with some topsoils that you can buy in bags at the store, and I also put some chicken feed and cow manure, and I mixed it all in. I went down, I dug down to get the grass out, about 6 inches. It replaced with the extra soil, mixed it all up, voila, it was done. Put my fence around the outside. Now the only other thing I added, which isn't necessary but just makes it easy for me, is I added this Netafin. It's a drip hose. If you look closely, you can see that every 16 inches it has this little emitter here, and what that does is allows the water to soak out into the garden. I plant my plants close to it and then they get watered. I got this simple system at one of the local hardware stores. There's a lot of type of systems that are available, but you could do the same thing every morning with the hose. It just needs to be watered once a day. So I took this drip system, ran it down to my hose nozzle so that I can turn the water on manually every morning. Then the next step is I simply went to a garden store and I picked out some things that I like to eat. And that what I'd highly recommend is what you should do. Just pick out a couple things you like. If you've never gardened before, put them in the ground. I'm going to show you how. Start watering them and see what happens. The very worst that can happen is the plant dies. Most of the plants are like $2. And then you'll go from there. At least you'll have learned something. So I encourage everyone to just do it. Find a little place, take up the grass, take up the weeds, decide how you're going to water it, put some sort of fence around it, protect it, and then plant it, which is the stage we're at now. So what I'm going to plant today is a few herbs, and herbs are usually, the leaves are taken off and it can be used in cooking. They're also all edible, so you can eat them at any time. You could even, and most of them, like this is spearmint, has the taste of the name. Basil, which is used for cooking a lot. This one is a peppery, has a peppery, pretty orange and yellow flower, and you can eat these. And oregano also. So that's basically it. I picked stuff that I like, and now I'm going to put it in the ground. I also have some cabbages here and some choy. Not a lot of plants. You don't need a lot of plants to start. Just get some things you like, start putting them in the ground, let's see what happens. At the very worst, you're going to learn something, all right? So don't be afraid. So the first thing I'm going to do is one of the things that is the most interesting that I like to put on salads is this cranberry hibiscus. It doesn't look much right now, but once we get it in the ground, it's going to grow up. So I put this lattice, tied it to my fence, and I'll using ties or any type of string, I'm going to tie this hibiscus as it grows. Now these things are really cool. You can eat the flowers and you can eat the leaves themselves. They taste like cranberry. You can put that right on your salad. So that's what I'm going to do first. So I find where the hose is, where the emitter's coming out, and I'm going to dig a hole right at the base as close as I can get it. Just a little shovel, one of these little shovels. You could have a little hand shovel. You could even use your hands. So I'm going to dig it out. I want to get it deep enough so that the top is flush with the top of the ground. When stuff's in a pot, it gets root bound. So you squeeze the sides using your top hand, hold the base of the plant, and kind of dump it out. See there, it'll all stay together, like it come right out of the pot. Now what you want to do is to loosen it up a little bit so the roots can start moving out. You don't have to be over aggressive, just stimulate it a little bit and move her around. So once that is done, we go down to our hole, kind of eyeball how deep. If I need to go any deeper, I got my fence right there. And what I like to do is kind of stay in contact with the plant and kind of feel it out. This is a funny thing, but you kind of know when the position's right, it's right. Once it's in, I press it down firmly with my fingers, and then I backfill around the outsides. And then push it down again, and that's it. All the other dirt I'll level off, and I want to make sure the drip hose itself is somewhere in the vicinity, so when it comes out, it'll drip onto the plant. Doesn't necessarily have to have the drip right on, because there's 2 of them on each side, and running this 20 to 30 minutes is going to be enough to create water. So that's that with the hibiscus. Now I'll start with the other plants. Around the base of the hibiscus, I'm going to put the herbs. Same thing. I'll take out the instructions, and on here they'll tell you how far to plant it, but typically, which you can read, you want to give plants enough room. Well, with these herbs, I can have them overlapping. It's not going to matter. So I squeeze, pop it out. There's the root ball again. This one I'm just going to use my hand to dig the hole, pull the earth back, push the plant down in, and then cover the dirt just like that. It's got a hose right at its base. So do the same thing with the spearmint on the other side. Break up, push that root ball a little bit, get those roots kind of moving out. And then pack it in. And we'll put one right in the front too. It's a little tight. But again, I want to point out that you can't do anything wrong. You can just not do anything. That would be wrong, as you waited to get so much information that you couldn't remember what the information was you learned. So just go ahead and do something simple, start putting them in the ground, and we'll figure it out as we go. So that'll water there. They'll all kind of grow together. Done it before when it's a tighter garden. It looks nice too. Also, it's kind of pretty at the base of that. So I'll take my flowers, I'll put those in the corner. They tend to get a little bigger, so I'm going to give them a little more room. These are the edible flowers. You can see on the picture they're yellow, but they also come in orange. They're real pretty and you can eat them. Taste peppery. There we go. Now with the cabbages, I'm going to give them a little more room. So I'm going to spread out those towards the middle. If you look too, you're going to see other little plants coming up. Sometimes after you plant your garden a while, you'll get the seeds from other things popping up and you want to save them. I think I just stepped on a tomato. That was an old tomato that was coming up. As I was weeding, oh well, it looks like it might not make it, but then again, who knows? We'll leave it go. Again, to point out, as you learn to garden, you'll also learn like what the plants kind of look like. So when the seedlings comes up with another plant, you know not to pick it. A lot of these are weed seeds, which is basically here in Florida called Spanish needle. It puts out about 1,000 weeds. And so these things pop up everywhere. You can see them in the yards adjacent to the garden. So weeding is a big deal and it's something you have to get in and do from time to time. And that also brings me to the point that gardening will change your lifestyle. It slows you down. It forces you to come out and do things and be in contact with the earth. That's one of the main benefits I believe gardening has. Even though it provides you with food at some time, it's going to provide you with that kind of connectiveness back to the earth that we all miss and don't seem to have anymore. So that's why, once again, cannot reiterate enough to encourage you to get out and start a garden, even if it's small. So now for the cabbages, each one of these is a seed. They're very small. They're going to get bigger. So we're going to give these a little more spaces. I'm going to go about 2 feet apart for them. As we pop them in, we'll try to somewhat follow the hose down the line, maximize their watering concerns. Press, press. You can pull from the stem if it looks like it's loose. Kind of just feel it as we go. Might be a little crowded, but that's okay. Again, the idea is just to do it, not worry too much. You get the plant in the earth and it gets water, it's going to grow. You can figure out the rest as you go. I think we'll put that one a little farther. There we go. So each little plant's its own little life form. It's going to do its own little thing. Each one of these things at one point flowers and blooms. The care and maintenance of them is to be learned differently on an individual level. We're not going to go over that right now. The main concern, I think, is that we get them in the ground and they grow. And after that, we can start to investigate what it is we have. So we know we have a cabbage. We know that's lettuce, basically, that we eat. And so the only thing we're concerned with is we get the water and we see it grow. And we'll worry about how to take care of it later. That'd be a whole different show. I'm going to put one right at the base of Mike. And I'll expand out. So you can see once you get going, once the original prep is done to the yard, putting the plants in is fairly quick. What's the joy? I'll pop that out. So if you want to move it too, no big deal.
I want to see you get through that. Yeah.
Here's our neighborhood doggy.
I want to see you get through the fence.
I know you want a pet, don't you?
Come on.
Okay, so there's another cabbage there. And that's all we have remaining is cabbages, so I'm just going to kind of pop them throughout. There it is. You get the idea, and afterwards you pick up the mess. I'll continue with the rest of them later, but get a nice visual of what we got going. So, in a relatively short time, we've established a little bitty garden. So all of these things will blow out, big, big, full. That'll be real full. This will get higher. So we got the start of our little bitty garden. I'm going to turn on the water now and show you how it seeps out. So just stand by. Camera, you'll probably be able to hear the sound. It makes a buzzing sound as it comes out. It's a very nice delivery system because it uses the minimal amount of water in order to get. If you look closely, you can see it start to drip out. And there's different ways. Normally, if I let this run, since it's fairly flat ground, it'll soak up everywhere. As the roots get longer, they'll reach those hose. So if one's per se not right on a drip. Another thing one can always do is kind of corral it in so it goes right towards the plant by making somewhat of a moat around the plant itself. It's just as an extra thing. The only thing to remember is the plant's small here right now. If you run the water long enough, it'll soak everything, and you generally can see where it's soaked, so you know what got wet and what didn't. But that's something you'll get through observation. So the key is to get the plants, get the garden space, put the plants in. After that, the thing is to make your routine part of your life is now tending to the garden, pulling these weeds, making sure they're getting watered, and slowly you're just gonna learn. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, your gardener friend. See you next time.